Mr. Speaker, on 3 separate occasions in the spring sitting and now what will be twice in this sitting, I raised the unacceptable lack of resources and services available for patients and families facing the death of a loved one in Cape Breton-Richmond. People are passing their last days and weeks in hallways in this province, Mr. Speaker. They are dying in emergency rooms, which are ill-equipped to accommodate their needs, and they are even passing their last days and weeks in storage closets, Mr. Speaker. It is absolutely deplorable. On April the 17th, the Premier, in response to my question, stated, "It is completely unacceptable that a Nova Scotian looking for end-of-life care is put in the conditions that the honourable member raised in this House." I would like to ask the Premier if he finds it equally unacceptable that in the 5 months that have passed, the only response received from the Minister of Health is a letter dated August 29th, advising the Sept Richmond Palliative Care Society that to contact the NSHA with their concerns.
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for the question. Mr. Speaker. There are 2 palliative care beds, Mr. Speaker, in Sept Richmond, Mr. Speaker, that occasionally are filled up with acute care patients. I believe that seriously is an issue that we need to try to deal with to address. As you know, there are 3 GPs that have committed to doing palliative care at home. We have a nurse practitioner as part of that. Doing as well palliative care at home. I know this facility well, Mr. Speaker. My family is from this particular riding. I've lost many of my own family in that facility doing palliative care. This is an ongoing service that we're continuing to make sure that we make available in communities across the province, and Sept Richmond is one of those.
The Honourable Member for Cape Breton-Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, Cape Breton-Richmond and the Sept Richmond Palliative Care Society and the families that are here today need a plan. They need investment. They need an answer. Again, on April 17th, the Premier stated, "The honourable member would know there have been no dedicated palliative care beds in the Sept Richmond Hospital." We know that. That's the problem. I tabled a plan on their behalf to change that, Mr. Speaker. The Premier continued to say, "I will ensure that the document arrives in the right hands." I also said to the honourable member outside of this House that I would make sure she had the appropriate meetings at the appropriate time. Can the Premier please inform me what he plans to deliver and when to deliver on that promise, Mr. Speaker, because I would hope he is a man of his word.
The Honourable Premier, order please. Just like to remind the Honourable Member for Cape Breton-Richmond that it's unparliamentary against the rules of this House to call into question the integrity of another member of this House. So, the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to tell the Honourable Member that the information she provided to me was delivered to the Department. I also want to tell her, as we look at palliative care services across the province, each community will be different. I also want to tell her there are 2 palliative care beds in Sept Richmond, Mr. Speaker, that at times become part of the acute care system. We need to deal with how do we address that. At the same time, we are also hearing from many Nova Scotians who want to receive palliative care services at home. We're working to ensure that we have those healthcare teams to be able to provide that service. Mr. Speaker, all families, as we go through an end-of-life process with one of the people we care about and love about, there's many challenges associated with, and the system should be flexible and responsive enough to ensure that we have the appropriate kinds of services that meet the needs of that end of life for that particular family, and we'll continue to work with the people of Sept Richmond to ensure that we can continue to enhance the work that is going on there by the good healthcare professionals to deal with families at end of life.